From the studios of WMUL at Marshall University, in collaboration with the Dead Podcaster Society, this is Y Radio, a show where I, DJ Drivin Duncan, take you for a ride down information lane and teach you about the world of radio and audio production in the name of answering the question of why radio and learning more about the individuals that are helping to grow and evolve this industry. For this episode, I traveled to my hometown of Saint Albans to visit WWSA 96.9 FM, a local hometown radio station founded in 2016 that plays music from the 1950s to the 1980s. For this episode, I was joined by WMUL's music director, John Boggess, who interned at WWSA one summer as we interviewed WWSA's general manager, Buzz Browning, as well as WWSA's founder and 2014 West Virginia Broadcasters Hall of Fame inductee and former Saint Albans mayor, Dick Callaway. Being an LP station means that WWSA covers a small area. In fact, it only covers 10 miles. It's low-powered, designed to serve a specific population with a specific purpose.
We were able to get an LP license while I was serving as mayor because the Federal Communications Commission opened up that window and allowed us to make application for this type of service. The idea was to provide service locally and more locally identified because all the other stations, our immediate area, are what we call regional stations. So they were interested in our broader population area, and then they were not able to serve the local community as well.
There's a nostalgic aspect to WWSA's identity. Walking into the studio is like walking into a time machine. The walls are decorated with photos of old performers and other older designs, alongside the retro-inspired station imagery. Outside of the computer program they use to run their station, even some of their equipment is retro. It all ties back to their retro music selection that they build their audience around.
And when I came on, WWSA was a computer. That was all. It was automated, and we are still somewhat automated. But when Dick finally brought me on board, I said I'd like to make a change because he was playing some, just something to fill the air because they were in the experimental stage getting started, doing interviews with local people, which was still good, which we still do. We never dropped that. And he let me take over doing some music. So I added some 60s and 70s at that time. And people loved it. They loved the 60s. They loved the 70s for our age range. But as of first of the year, we've gained another audience of listeners, maybe a little older, a little younger. We added the 80s music to our format now. And we're playing everything now from 1955 to 1989, covering a broad range of listeners. And we've picked up, our audience has grown since then.
Probably have about 5,000 different selections that we can choose from when it comes to picking music because we topped the 100 of each of those years. We're not talking decades, we're talking about years. So we have a wide variety of programming possibilities with the program selections that we have.
And I like that nostalgia factor that they have when it comes to the equipment and the music and all that. There's an audience for that. I saw plenty of people come by the radio station. Plenty of people saw us when we were out at events and tell us they loved the station. So I think there is a good group of people that do listen to this. And as an intern, I knew a lot about radio. Not everything, but I knew a good bit about radio from my time at WMUL. But coming here and seeing this equipment and stuff like that, that was a new thing for me. And that's what an internship should be about, is learning something new. So I really think in my time with everything they have here, it was a new experience, and I could say I took a lot from it.
Of course, it wouldn't be a discussion between four radio DJs if we didn't discuss older technology and vinyl at some point.
Even at WMUL, one of our professors still teaches us about VHS tapes, CDs, albums. There's a lot to learn from it. It may not be seen as the modern day thing, but there's still a lesson behind it, and it's just something that advances your knowledge at audio even further. And so I think it's still worth the time.
Another thing is people are now beginning to realize that the quality of sound has a lot to do with the listening. The vinyl has a different sound to it than what some of the pre-recorded music is on the types of music that we provide now. So there's a market out there for vinyl, actually records.
Do you all play records at WMUL?
We do occasionally. So there's something called Vinylthon yearly, and that's supposed to be when Vinylthon is going on, you strictly play vinyls. I have a lot of albums that my grandfather just gave me that I've been meaning to bring in, a lot of old jazz and blues, and it's still very much something we do. It's just not every day do we play vinyls live.
Let me tell you something here. I have a record library, which is probably several, maybe thousands of LP 33 and a thirds. Also, the old 45s. I have several hundreds of those. And also have tapes, cassettes, and the old carts that used to be part of the music world out there. But right now, I'm in a situation where I need to get rid of all that because I'm 83 years old and my needle's worn out. You know what I'm saying? I even have a collection that I picked up from a radio station in Virginia of the old original 78s. I have 78s as well as the 33 and the thirds. Anyway, you can get yourself all messed up by collecting music.
One of the purposes of this program is to understand why people love radio, why people make it the industry it is. We had been discussing the old methods that Dick and Buzz used to accomplish their work when we got onto the topic of nighttime radio.
Yeah, when I was working, we were 24 hours, but we had the same type of thing. During the daytime, we were 1,000 watts. Nighttime, we went to 250. And the reason for that was the ionosphere moves in and out. And at nighttime, when the ionosphere moved out, what happens, your radio wave would hit that ionosphere and bounce. So you might be, in his situation, Matewan, West Virginia, but someone in Cleveland can hear you. So you had to protect other stations by dropping your power so you wouldn't be reflecting your signal out to such areas that would interfere with other stations. So that was the reason for that.
And nighttime radio is really what piqued my interest in radio, period. As a youngster growing up, I loved music. I played music. I always started learning to play music at an early age. But at night, there was this radio station that would come into my little AM radio, and I loved the 60s music back through then, still do. And there was a station out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. You couldn't get it during the daytime, but at nighttime, boy, it just knocked your speakers off the wall. And it's WOWA, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Westinghouse Broadcasting. I'll never forget that. I used to go to sleep at night with that transistor underneath my pillow.
Now you should listen to WBZ in Boston.
Also, WLSL Chicago, WABC came in. All those stations used to come in late at night, and that's what we listened to back in the day on our transistors when we were growing up and getting interested.
Dick and Buzz have been in radio for a long time, specifically around 60 years. During our discussion, John and I learned about how different their career paths and reason for getting into radio were. Dick's career began when he took an interest in broadcasting in high school, where he would then go to vocational school for classes in radio and television electronics. His career has taken him all around West Virginia. He's held the role of news director, owned radio stations, even serving as president of the West Virginia Associated Press Broadcasters Association. While his first job just had him setting up equipment for stations, a large part of his career happened at WJLS in Beckley, West Virginia, when he was brought on by the voice of the herd.
A fellow by the name of Gene Morehouse. You may have heard of him. He was a sports director of course, at the station there in Huntington, because he was the sports director for Marshall University, and he died on a plane crash, if you remember. But Gene was a sportscaster when I was in high school and I played football. He knew me as a football player, but he also knew that I had some background in electronics and broadcasting. So he said, "Would you like to come work the radio station?" I said, "Oh, yeah, that's great." So I began working with Gene Morehouse at WJLS in Beckley and worked there and did my career there somewhat. And then Libby, my wife, and I, after we got married, decided that we'd continue along in this particular area. So I worked at WJLS during the time we dated and during the time that we got married.
While Dick has been around the state, Buzz has been in Saint Albans since 1979. His career began in his hometown of Matewan at the local 1360 AM station. He worked for WXCC in Williamson, West Virginia, after the station was founded in 1977, until he was recruited to WKLC in Saint Albans in 1979. He worked in radio up until 10 years ago, when he retired and joined Dick in starting WWSA. For Buzz, it was his career as a musician that helped him enter radio.
As I mentioned earlier about listening to transistor radio and listening to radio, it just intrigued me. Radio did just from the bat, you know. But being a musician and playing music down there, local churches went to the local radio stations to do a Sunday broadcast. And I'd get asked to go play the piano for them. And I would do that. And When I walk in the radio station, I was intrigued when the first time I walked in the station. Here it was, all this glass, and there's the guy sitting behind the controls, and that big control board, all that stuff going on. It just intrigued me, I was a teenager at that time. But as time kept going along, I kept saying, I even looked at ordered brochures and things from broadcasting schools, wanted to do that. My parents had other ideas for me. They didn't want me to do that, but it turned out that after I graduated high school, I spent a few years just playing music and everything, but my local hometown radio station in Mate 1, I knew some of the guys, and I started hanging out with them and started hanging around the station, and the next thing I know, I'm on the air. They put me on the air and let me try out, and they liked me, and they kept me, and I stayed there for quite a while.
Even though WWSA is a low-powered hometown radio station, Dick and Buzz still aim to create not just quality programming, but quality on-air personalities.
But I've taken all my years of what I've done in radio, and we put it all together, Dick and I have, and that's what we're making out of WWSA today.
Matter of fact, every now and again, people will tell us we sound as good as any other station on the air, which is pretty remarkable considering what we have to go with, because we have no budget, we have no people, we just have each other.
We've had several volunteers, and we do an internship, as you know, and we still do the internship, and we just had some very good people pass through.
Yeah, because we've gotten from West Virginia State as well as Marshall, and it's nice to be able to work with those institutions and get some good people down, and they develop over the time they're here. It's maybe the first time they come in, sort of like, Buzz, which button do I push? After they figured that one out, then they just started developing and taking on the confidence that's necessary to do this job, because if you're not confident, then you're in trouble.
Here at WWSA, we give you on-air, hands-on experience. You can sit and run the control board.
And I did.
While on the topic of training future DJs, Dick and Buzz began to reflect on some funny training stories from earlier in their careers.
When we were at the Hall of Fame program, Fred Persinger was there. Fred and I worked together years ago in WWNR, and he was a bookkeeper, and of course I was the news director. And Fred says, I think I might like to be on the air, and he says, would you help me? I said, sure, come on in here. So I took him in the control room. He tells his story. I don't remember it, but this is the way he tells it. He said, Dick took me into the studio, and we sat down at the control board, and he says, now this spot does this, which is the control, and this one does this, and this one runs that turntable, and this does that. I'll see you in about an hour. And I left him. So he learned real fast, because he knew what this pot does and this pot does. And now he just received a big award, I think, as Broadcaster of the Year, as he does all the broadcasting for, the Racy Network, and does all the sports for them.
One of my funny stories about training someone, this actually happened. I was working in Williamson at this time on the AM side, and that's where they had all their gospel programming on Sunday mornings. Most stations, they're all gospel on Sunday, So I had a guy in, and I showed him how to run the tapes. Most of the programs were pre-recorded, some of them. Then they did have some live stuff. But I told the gentleman he'd been running the board some prior to the day before. Did a real good job, but we got ready to do the programs. Now I said, if some programs run short on you, which they will, I said, grab a record and play a song, and then start your next show, So I left him alone. I went out in the lobby and laid down on the couch. I was laying there, and I was about half dozed off, and all of a sudden I heard him outroing the program, and it was about 5 minutes after, and he said something, I forget what he said, and all of a sudden I heard, "You sexy thing." Hot Chocolate song came on right in the middle of the broadcast, and I said, no, I got to catch it. I said, no, you got to play a gospel song, gospel music. I'll never forget that. And, we're in gospel program, he plays Hot Chocolate, "You sexy thing." I remember that. That's one of my funny stories about broadcasting and training people.
It's not so funny this time.
It was not funny at all, no.
I'm going to go ahead and spoil the Why Radio moment for this episode. It's community. For Dick and Buzz, they work in radio because they want to support their community. They train people to provide the community with more support in the future. In fact, they support their community by offering community members the opportunity to volunteer and foster a love for radio. Even John got to reflecting on his time at WWSA.
We're looking for people who have an interest in what we're doing. This is a profession that we've loved, we've been a part of, and we look for people who have the same desire and hope to be a broadcaster. And there's something about broadcasting. It's not necessarily the idea, who you are, but what fascinates me is think you sit behind that microphone, speak into it, and your voice just goes all over the place. I don't think anybody's born a broadcaster, but it's something that you have to work on, or it's like any profession where you feel like you're really providing some sort of entertainment and or education and or information, and it's a tremendous amount of responsibility to sit behind that microphone and be there, realizing that at any moment the world could come to a catastrophe and you're in a position to have to save people's lives.
And the reason why we do this, you asked, is for you and for you and for anybody else who shown interest that you want to do it like you guys did. And over the years that we've been here, of course, prior to the years, Dick and I have run into people who wanted to do it, and some could do it and some couldn't do it.
I know John can agree with me because he hears it every other day from our professor, Dr. Bailey. He always says that, for in the world of radio, it's not just a simple, you go and do it. It's you have to want to do it.
And that's true. It's like any profession. You feel like you're doing somebody some good, and you're enjoying the responsibility of doing that, but you've got to want to do it. It's not something that you can force someone to do.
Yeah, and I didn't start to make good content, in my opinion, until I wanted to do it. There was a lot of instances when I was first getting started that it was just an assignment. It was just a class. Radio was not an interest. It's just something I had to do. Now I think I do a lot better content because I go in there wanting to do what I'm doing instead of trying to get a grade.
And also to be creative, too. You express yourself.
And let me tell you guys, I'm going to warn you right up front, real quick, you young guys. You're going to get it in your blood, and once you get it in your blood, you can't get it out. You'll want to do it just like Dick and I. You want to. It gets in your blood, doesn't it, Dick?
I mean, sure it does.
It gets in your blood, and it's something. Even when I was away for a few months or a year or so, I had to get back. I had to get back into it.
One of the big things was I knew about the importance of timing and playing the legal ID at the top of the hour and stuff like that. But it wasn't really until I watched Buzz perfectly lay out the timing of his episode that it really clicked in my brain oh, you gotta understand time in radio. And now I do that a lot, maybe a little too much. I'm always trying to perfectly time everything, get the legal right at the top of the hour if I can get it at the top of the hour, because it's just something that I learned here was being concise with when you say what and having that layout. And then another thing, the community aspect as well. I mean, going places and people coming up to the table, people that didn't even knew us, people that didn't know us, and giving an interview on the air. That was always really fun to watch and see happen.
Dick is right. Radio is an addictive job. It's exciting to hear your voice over the air, speaking to listeners as an unseen companion. I actually shadowed Buzz the last few months of my senior year of high school. I remember struggling to say the right words before I played the next song. But even then, a fire was started within me to continue, to spread my voice further over the air. Community is a big part of WWSA's identity. I remember marching in parades as part of my high school's marching band and seeing Buzz and Dick commentating the parade over the air for those who couldn't attend in person. While they have programming like Dick's Doo-Wop program or WWSA DJ Rick Skeen's program focused on music from the Vietnam War era, a lot of their programming goes back to involving the community.
And the other thing is, too, that we do something that the others do not do. They used to, and that's remote broadcast. Buzz made sure we had ourselves a nice tent to go under, but we'll go out and anything happens in the community, you'll find us live out broadcasting on the streets and being able to actually bring people into the station by going out to people and allowing them to be a part of what we do and seeing what we are up to. I think that, that's important to realize that we have that capability to be a part of the community.
Also, one thing we do, we have live live musicians in our studio. Once a month, we present a program called the Friday Night Jam, and we bring in all the local musicians, and they come in and they get to perform live on the air and get to showcase their talents. And of course now, since we're streaming, we just started last week streaming, they'll get to be heard even by a larger audience of people around the country.
We have local musicians coming in and jamming with their own particular sound. No other station that's tied up when it comes to commercials and so forth has the ability to do that because they're concerned about numbers when it comes to listeners.
On Sunday morning, we carry gospel programming. Starting at 6 a.m. on Sunday morning, we carry the Bill Gaither Gospel Show, carry the radio homecoming show for 2 hours. I come on at 8 o'clock with a live program called Gospel Classics. And I feature some of the old gospel songs from way back when, and then I feature some of the new artists too from some of the singing charts. And then we have a local minister who comes on. Of course, we're open to all local ministers. Anybody who wants to come on and get some time on the air, we offer that to them. And we work with the Saint Albans Ministerial Alliance as well too.
Buzz and Dick's goal of being a hometown radio station was intentional. It's at the heart of making WWSA an active part of the Saint Albans community. Even more intentional was their recent decision to provide listeners from far away a way to listen to WWSA out of range through internet streaming. Being a hometown station is how they stand out in a world of on-demand streaming.
The type of programming that we're presenting is designed specifically for a hometown type audience. Now, if you stop and think, well, how does that affect somebody in Timbuktu? Well, Timbuktu is a hometown, so they can relate to that same type of feeling that they have in their community that would be in this community. So if we call ourselves hometown, hometown is wherever you happen to be. And the programming that we offer is hometown because it has that sound, that quality, that warmness that you wouldn't find necessarily on a regional type station.
And there are some commercial stations, you may not know this, there are some commercial stations in the area that don't have too much wattage, but they're FM and they get around the valley, but their main audience is their online audience. That's what they depend on, is their online audience for their sales that they do. And they're local. And, you know, they got a big FM experience and everything, but they're not LP, but they can sell commercials and they have income and they can pay their guys and stuff like that. But still yet, their main broadcast audience is their online audience.
I mean, I would say that that's very true for WMUL in a way where while we do have local listeners, when you are a college radio station, those people leave and they go elsewhere, and those people also have families elsewhere. Like, I know my grandpa, about everything that I was on, he was listening at WMUL online, and a lot of times when I want to listen to WMUL, I had to listen online because I was no longer in the area. I live in Huntington now again, so I don't have to do that. But at the same time, if I don't have a radio in my house, so the most convenient way without getting in my car is to pull it up on my phone. So I do think that form is getting more popular, but in a place like Saint Albans, I really do feel like there is that opportunity for the community to listen to it more frequently on the air. But it's great to know that you all now have that online option as well, because it can go further than Saint Albans.
ABC, CBS, NBC, all those used to be the only way you could get any information or whatever. But now it's been diluted to the point that people listen to and go to the thing that they want to listen to. So your audience has simply narrowed down because that's the way it is. That's life. So what we try to do is provide a slice of that life that becomes important to those people who listen to it. Now, the reason they listen to it, it could be because of the news that we have, because of what they want to hear in terms of things that are happening. It might be the music we listen to. It might be the variety. It might even be the personality that's on the air. But
yeah, and I might mention, it doesn't matter what kind of music you like, we're going to hit it. If you like country music, some of the country stars hit the pop charts. Last weekend, I played a Willie Nelson song, like to flip everybody out. And they said, well, he did. He did. Waylon Jennings made it. Conway Twitty made it. Alabama has been on there. There's a lot of these groups that we know have crossed over into the pop charts, and we play them. If they cross over, we'll play them. So you get some country mixed in with your rock and roll as well.
But we try to find that thing that one particular thing that is attractive enough to pull listeners in. And we know that broadcasting, for example, is usually only based upon 15-minute segments anyway, because if you look at your charts and so forth, it's all based on how much audience you have at this particular time, and that's where the buys are made, and that's what the cost of the advertising is based on that thing of who's listening, when they're listening. That's why they look at surveys and so forth. And it's all just a shot in the dark, and hope you're hitting the right team, doing the right thing.
I got one word why we are different. We're personal. We are a personal radio station. You can call us and request a song and send it out to someone like the old days. You can call in and say, I've got a yard sale. We'll put that on the air for you. You can call in and say your dog is lost. I'll put that on the air for you. We're personal for you. Like if you come into the station or you walk in the door as a stranger, we welcome you in. I'll show you the control room, show you all around and everything, and we do it that way. But personal is what WWSA is, and it's open to everybody. I said this one time. I remember Dick made a comment about it. I said, hey, you got the kids for the weekend, trying to find something to do with them? Take them by the radio station, bring them by, and we'll give them a tour of the radio station,
Dick and Buzz are not shy to admit they're old and that they have been in radio for many years. They've seen it hit highs and lows. While there is the stereotype that radio is dying, Dick and Buzz don't see radio leaving anytime soon.
Well, I think one thing we know for sure is that it has survived a lot of things, and it probably is surviving better now than it has other industries. For example, at one point, people says, what is going to happen to the motion picture industry because television has gone on? No one will ever go to a movie again. Well, it seems like there's movie theaters around. Obviously, there are. And the same thing's true with radio. Radio is something that's a constant companion. It's there. It's reliable. People know it's there. They'll turn to it when they need to know something.
We're doing the same thing all the other radio stations are doing. We're broadcasting through our transmitter. Now we're streaming online. All the other radio stations are doing that. We might be playing different types of music, have different formats, but all radio stations, we're all doing the same thing. And until something else changes or something better comes along, we'll all be pretty well equal and we'll stay with it. They say that radio is dropping, but according to some of the ratings, it's picking back up in some areas.
As we round out this episode, Dick and Buzz talked about their biggest piece of advice for people interested in radio. Being an excellent broadcaster isn't easy. You have to search within yourself to find the drive to pursue a career in broadcasting. And most importantly, you need to give yourself the chance to put your foot through the door.
It's hard to narrow things down to one specific thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole variety of things. But basically, it has to go back to, I think, the idea that it's something that you are a part of and it's a part of you.
Exactly. That's what it is. And I want to help people. To learn things and know things, and want them to know how to do this. Like I told you earlier, you get it in your blood, guys. It's there. You're going to be wanting to do this for the rest of your life, and it's just something that you really have to. You really need to want to do it. There's a lot of people out there who may be listening right now and think, I'd never do that. I could never do that. And they may just walk circles all over me and Dick. I could sit down behind that microphone and carry on a conversation and time everything perfect, but you just have to look for them.
For Dick and Buzz, community is what drives their creative passion for radio. It's the fun of sharing your passion with others mixed with the responsibility of protecting one's community. That's why they're so excited when someone shows an interest in broadcast. Radio isn't just entertainment. It can be the key to becoming more involved in your community. Radio is a constant companion. For WWSA, that role of being a constant companion isn't limited to just over the air. It's a companion that encourages you to break out of your shell and see more of the world around you through your local community. That's our Why Radio moment for this week. I'd like to thank Dick Callaway and Buzz Browning for taking the time to be a part of this episode, as well as John Boggess for joining as well. This is my stop, but don't worry. Why Radio will be back for another ride, and if you do miss a cruise, then you can find episodes on Marshall University's Dead Podcaster Society's social media, Dead Podcaster Society MU on Instagram and YouTube. I'm DJ Drivin Duncan, and you're listening to Why Radio on WMUL FM 88.1 The Cutting Edge.